Jingchu and I were reborn at the same time. In our previous life, we were deeply in love and blessed with many children and grandchildren, but what I waited for after my rebirth was the news of him going to the minister's house to propose marriage. In my past life, I had no regrets toward you. In this life, I want to live differently. If you still wish to follow me, wait for me 5 years. After 5 years, I will marry you as my equal wife. After returning home, I sent a letter to the scholar who was far away in Yangju. Jiyu Jingchu didn't know that I, too, wanted to change my life. Miss, the betrothal gifts from Lord Jiyu have been delivered to the minister's residence. Xiangji brought news from outside, carefully watching my expression. My hand holding the teacup tightened for a moment. Last night during dinner, my parents asked about my marriage. I said, let's wait a little longer and see what Jiyu Jingchu has to say. Thinking of our past life where we were a loving couple, we were considered a match made in heaven in the eyes of the world, but who would have thought that in an instant, it all fell apart? Miss, are you all right? Xiangji was afraid I would be upset. I set the teacup down on the table, feeling unexpectedly calm, even relieved. Lord Jiyu has arrived. The servant outside came to announce. I nodded to let him in. Meeting again, we were even more certain that the other had been reborn. That look in his eyes couldn't deceive anyone. Jiyu Jingchu's eyes were red as he said, I'm sorry. Why? I followed up with his words. He said, in my previous life, I had no regrets towards you. In this life, I want to live differently. I nodded. Just like in my previous life, I never dared to disobey him. Jiyu Jingchu was very pleased with my reaction, his face showing even more pity. You also know that Liu Wanqin won't live past 20. Once she's gone, I'll come find you again. I suddenly looked up, unable to control my emotions any longer, and let out a cry of surprise. You want me to wait 5 years, then become your second wife? What if she isn't dead? Jiyu Jingchu frowned. If she isn't dead, I'll marry you as my equal wife. A secondary wife is still a concubine. I lowered my gaze. My once calm heart finally rippled by the wind. After a lifetime together, I still don't understand him well enough. Jiyu Jingchu's voice grew colder. She is not in good health. So what's the harm in giving in to her a little? You know as well as I do that in her past life, she died from excessive worry. If I had married her earlier, perhaps things could have been better. I smiled, no longer wanting to argue. All right, Jiyu Jingchu sighed, his expression softening. I know you feel wronged, but rest assured, the wedding banquet will be no less grand than it is now. You also know that in 5 years, my status will only be higher. He left, his back straight and his steps brisk. Xiangji was beside herself with anxiety. How could you agree to it? Miss, what status does Liu Wanqin have? And what status do you have? How could it possibly be you who goes to be her concubine? I smiled and tapped her forehead. I don't want Jiyu Jingchu anymore. So what if I let Liu Wanqin have him? The next day, I ran into Liu Wanqin at the treasure pavilion. Seeing her again after a lifetime, her appearance had become much more vibrant. Sister Qingyang, I heard you were waiting for Lord Jiyu to come and propose, but unfortunately, he went to my place instead. The betrothal gifts have already been sent, and the wedding date is set. I'm afraid you'll be disappointed. Sister, unfortunately, the words spoken were not very pleasant. When did I ever say I was waiting for him to propose? Is this the upbringing of your Liu family, spreading rumors to tarnish my reputation? Do you wish to take a trip to the Dali temple? Liu Wanqin paled in fright. Lord Jiyu, she walked toward Jiyu Jingchu, sobbing as she went. The other party had just entered the room and clearly had no idea what she had said earlier. Without a word, his expression turned cold. Bu Qingyang, why must you make things difficult for her? Please don't blame my sister. She's just feeling upset inside. I can understand. Before I could speak up to refute, Liu Wanqin had already started talking. Jiyu Jingchu snorted coldly. If you're unwilling, You can go find someone else. Wan Qin is delicate. You cannot be reckless with her. If I see you bullying her again, I will not let you off lightly." With that, he helped Liu Wanqin away. The jewels in the box were the very ones he had given me in our previous life after our engagement. No wonder I have always preferred silk flowers over pearls and jade, so why would he give me those? It was never meant for me in the first place. Somehow, the matter of the treasure pavilion was leaked. Everyone in the capital says I was waiting in vain for Jiyu Jingchu, only to be drawn away by the young lady of the Liu family. Mother was so angry she kept wiping away her tears. Originally, there were quite a few suitors coming to propose, but after all this commotion, who would still be willing to visit? Everything was fine, but now the reputation is ruined. I glanced at my father, whose face was ashen, and tentatively spoke up. "Father, do you have a student in Yangju, named Kai Jingyan?" He froze, looking over in surprise. "You mean," I lowered my gaze with a light laugh, "your daughter thinks Yangju is quite nice, but is only a scholar now, though, it's just a matter of time before he succeeds." Father had high hopes for him. His previous life also proved that father's judgment was correct. I chose him not only because of his future achievements, but also because he was disciplined and adhered to propriety throughout his life. He never married in his lifetime. And his family background was clean and simple. After being married and having children, I finally realized it's really not that big of a deal. Jiyu Jingchu was right. Since I've been given a second chance, I should try a different life. My father sent someone to deliver the letter. I also sent a letter along. But a month passed, and Kai Jingyan never replied, until this day, when I encountered him at home. He was wearing a blue long gown, standing under the corridor. The figure appeared slender and solitary, looking desolate in the autumn sunlight. Hearing the movement, Kai Jingyan turned to look over. "Miss Bu," I stepped forward. "Has young Master Kai come to give a reply? Send the betrothal card." "What?" he explained seriously. "The marriage proposal card. So soon?" Seeing my look of surprise, his handsome brows furrowed slightly. "Does the young lady have any other instructions?" "No, nothing, it's quite good." Kai Jingyan truly is different from the rest. The marriage was settled so simply. Coincidentally, the final date set was the same day as Jiyu Jingchu's. "Does the young lady have any objections? If needed, we can still change it." He specifically asked for my opinion. I shook my head. "It's fine." I met Jiyu Jingchu again a month later, on the way to Daxiangguo Temple. When the Prince of Minute was assassinated, both Kai Jingyan and Jiyu Jingchu were involved in the rescue. Unfortunately, Kai Jingyan got there first and rescued her, and the ginseng that had saved the Minute Princess in my previous life was also given by me to Kai Jingyan. Jiyu Jingchu arrived a step too late, his face ashen with anger. "Was it you who told him?" I shook my head. "We just happened to run into each other." Everyone goes to Daxiangguo Temple to offer incense, especially since I recently got engaged to Kai Jingyan. I need to pray for peace and good fortune. Jiyu Jingchu frowned deeply. "He is your father's disciple, the one who served as the prefect of Yangju in his previous life. It's rare that he still remembers. But a mere prefect, how could he compare to my second-rank minister, Bu Qingyang? Don't tell me this is the husband you've chosen for yourself." The matter of my engagement to Kai Jingyan was something he himself requested to keep secret. He wanted to wait until after the spring imperial examinations next year to announce it. Therefore, Jiyu Jingchu is still unaware of it. "What is this?" Before I could respond, the sachet in my hand was taken by Jiyu Jingchu. He chuckled to himself and returned the sachet to me. "Keep it with you for now. I'm afraid Wan Qin would be upset if she saw it. Give it back to me in 5 years. I was overthinking it." "How could you ever choose someone else?" Jiyu Jingchu was very confident, thinking it was for him. I couldn't help but voice my confusion. "What makes you think I would wait for you for 5 years? Weren't we very good in our previous life?" He spoke with great certainty. I tried to recall. and it seemed quite good. But it wasn't good enough for me to disregard my family and wait for him for 5 years. I shook my head, not wanting to speak anymore. Gu Jingchu, however, grabbed my wrist and said in a low voice, "Let it go this time, but don't block my way again in the future. Bu Qingyang, since we're starting over, I think I can aim a little higher." I turned around and met his gaze, filled with desire, startling me deep down. Suddenly, I felt very grateful that he had chosen Liu Wanqin back then, but I never expected this scene to be witnessed by Kai Jingyan. He stood under the corridor, as still as a painting. I wanted to explain, but could only utter dryly, "I will not do anything immoral, you can rest assured. Am I your second choice?" He stared at me, a stubborn glint in his eyes. "I am the legitimate daughter of the chief minister of the Dali Temple, more than a match for him, a mere scholar, even if he were to become the future prefect of Yangzhou." Yet for some reason, a trace of timidity unexpectedly arose in my heart. "Never mind, it's fine." Before I could respond, he had already spoken to himself. In the carriage on the way back to the mansion, Kai Jingyan spoke up again. "Did you intentionally bring me here today?" It was a question, but spoken with certainty. "You knew something would happen to King Minute here." I took a deep breath. He was far too clever. "If I told you that I actually remember my past life, would you believe me?" He stared at me for a long time. "What kind of person did I become in my past life?" "You protected the people of Yangzhou. They all live in peace and contentment, enjoying a life of abundance." He then asked, "And what about you?" "I married Gu Jingchu, helping him manage the household and handle various affairs. The following year, I gave birth to a child and also helped him take a concubine. He respects and honors me, and I am in charge of all matters in the household. The concubines and aunts are all obedient and well-behaved, never stirring up trouble, even if there is occasionally someone who disobeys. Gu Jingchu always hands them over to me to deal with. With his father's help, his official career has also been exceptionally prosperous. Until the end, he was even more formidable than his father. But in the year he turned 60, we had an argument, the only one in our entire lives. It was about our grandson's marriage. He wanted to marry a fisherman's daughter, but I refused. Looking down on the girl for her low status and questionable character, she looks delicate and fragile. But judging by her actions, she's probably not someone to be trifled with. Gu Jingchu grew angry. "What's wrong with being delicate? She hasn't harmed anyone." I was baffled by his sudden outburst. It wasn't until that evening, when I overheard him muttering to himself in the study, "Being delicate just means needing a little extra care from others. Wanqin, if I had been braver back then and chosen you, would you not have left so soon?" Hidden in the secret compartment on the wall was a portrait of Liu Wanqin. "But I'm 60 years old now, what is there that I can't let go of?" So, I pretended as if nothing had happened, and he took the opportunity to step down. In the end, he still chose to respect me and selected a noblewoman from a prestigious family for his grandson. But deep down, I still felt uneasy, always thinking it shouldn't be this way. Coming back to my senses, under Kai Jingyan's gaze, I nodded, "Very good." 3 words can sum up my entire life. When Kai Jingyan passed the imperial examination in the spring, our marriage became known to everyone. He rode a tall horse to my home, his gaze gently falling upon me. "We have become the center of attention. He is the top scholar." Kai Jingyan remained as reticent as ever, yet the joy at the corners of his eyes was unmistakable. I recall that in my past life, he also achieved the highest honors, but he didn't seem as joyful then, at that time. I thought something had happened to him, so I quietly asked my father. Father only said, "This child has always been one to keep his emotions hidden." "Congratulations, my lord." Coming back to my senses, I slightly bent my knees, but he lifted my elbow. I was thinking, what if we don't go to Yangzhou and stay in the capital instead? I was taken aback for a moment, then immediately heard his explanation. Your parents are both in the capital. So being closer would spare you from missing them all the time. Of course, if you truly wish to go to Yangju, I can go as well. It's entirely up to you. I couldn't make up my mind right away. Kai Jingnian told me to take my time and think it over. He said the emperor had given him a choice, and he could report back after a while. Jiyu Jingchu blocked me at the door that very afternoon. You really got engaged to him. Bu Qingyang, have you been treating my words as nothing but wind in your ears? My body trembled involuntarily. Suddenly, I realized that I was still a little afraid of him. So, I took a step back. Since Lord Jiyu has chosen someone else, I should live a different life, shouldn't I? But I was only making a temporary compromise. He gritted his teeth and stepped forward, while I retreated step by step. Please leave. There is no such thing as a temporary compromise here. Once you've made a choice, don't regret it. Jiyu Jingchu laughed in extreme anger. He looked at Kai Jingnian approaching from not far away, raised an eyebrow, and said, if he knew about the events of your past life, would he still be willing to marry you? I instinctively looked over. Kai Jingnian had already approached. Jiyu Jingchu, confident of success, spoke with a light smile. The top scholar is unaware, but there was a misunderstanding between me and Qingyang. She agreed to marry you in a fit of pique. Now that everything has been cleared up, I hope the top scholar can step aside. Kai Jingnian's gaze was fixed solely on me. Is what he said true? Jiyu Jingchu's expression turned cold, his eyes carrying a threat. I smiled and pried his hand away, walking to stand beside Kai Jingnian. It's not true. My agreement to the marriage arrangement with young Master Kai is sincere. Bu Qingyang. You. Jiyu Jingchu stared at me for a long while. Finally, he flicked his sleeve and turned away, saying, you don't know what's good for you. You'll regret it someday. I silently replied in my heart, no, I won't. I seem to have understood what was troubling my heart in my previous life. Just a moment ago, in an instant, I had an epiphany. On the surface, Jiyu Jingchu respects and honors me, but he has never truly taken me seriously. He only makes decisions on my behalf and then convinces me to accept them. But Kai Jingnian is different. He at least genuinely considers my well-being. Was he your husband in a past life? The voice came from beside me. I turned my head, and only then did Kai Jingnian slowly look over. Do you truly believe in all this, young Master Kai? He smiled, yet his eyes held a seriousness. If you say it, I believe it. For a moment, my heart skipped a beat. If I didn't know he was indifferent to worldly desires, I would have thought he was interested in me. Kai Jingnian and I chose to stay in the capital. With the help of Prince Minute, his starting point in this life was much higher. His official position seemed to be approaching that of Jiyu Jingchu. Before long, early summer arrived, bringing with it several days of heavy rain. A retired official from the Ministry of Revenue in the court. Thus, a position became vacant. Jiyu Jingchu came to the door, only to be turned away by his father. He finally managed to track me down. What did you say to Lord Bu? Why won't he see me, seeing him so self-righteous? I was stunned for quite a while. Bu Qingyang, don't think that without your Bu family, I can't take a single step forward. Since I've been reborn, I can naturally foresee countless opportunities. Just wait and see. I don't need any of you to claim that position. He was absolutely furious. He had already walked out, but not long after, he turned back. I'll give you one more chance to break off the engagement with Kai Jingnian. I can marry both you and Wan Qin at the same time. You'll be equals, and at most, you can live in the East Courtyard. He wore an expression as if he had already made many concessions, waiting for me to know what's best for me. Seeing that I remained silent, Jiyu Jingchu slammed the table. She has already conceded this much. What more do you want? The moment he slammed the table, the tea in my hand splashed onto his face. Please, Lord Jiyu, wake up. Would I give up being the rightful wife of a top scholar and a Hanlin official to become your secondary wife? But in the end, he, Kai Jingnian, will only ever be the prefect of Yangju. What future could he possibly have? How do you know he is still the prefect of Yangju? Jiyu Jingchu paused, clearly realizing that Kai Jingnian had not gone to Yangju in this lifetime. His expression instantly turned dark and sinister. I was wondering why I wasn't there. It turns out the spot was reserved for Kai Jingnian, right under the emperor's nose. Does your Bu family truly have no regard for the law? He rushed out like a madman. Xiangji at the door was startled. Miss, what is going on here? I shook my head. It was nothing more than the helpless rage that follows a hasty pursuit of success. He too knew that this was the emperor's domain. How could the Bu family ever give others a reason to gossip? Even in my previous life, my father had never been overly involved. He only offered a few pointers here and there. Moreover, Kai Jingnian's ambitions did not lie in the Ministry of Revenue. He was more interested in the Ministry of Works. I had just come down from the tavern when I saw Kai Jingnian's hurried figure. He stopped in front of me, slightly out of breath. Jiyu Jingchu asked to meet me. I know, he sighed and rubbed his nose. Then he turned his head to the side to pick out a hairpin from the nearby stall. This one seems to suit you well. Kai Jingnian didn't speak much, and when he did, it was often to mask his unease. For instance, right now, the tips of his ears are flushed red. He doesn't even dare to look at me. Could it be that he likes me? This thought suddenly popped into my mind for no reason. Having lived a second life, I am no longer the little girl I once was, but Kai Jingnian is still just a half-grown boy. How could he possibly hide his thoughts? I'll buy it for you. Seeing that I remained silent, Kai Jingnian took out money and bought the hairpin. He then offered to see me home. In the carriage, he calmly held a book, but the book was upside down. I couldn't stand it any longer and pulled the book out. Did you come here specifically looking for me? He nodded. I was afraid you'd be taken away by Jiyu Jingchu. After speaking, he hurriedly explained, though I may not be as eloquent as he is. I would never treat you with disrespect. After we marry, all my salary will be yours, and I will strive to advance in my career, so you won't have to suffer with me. He was about to say more, but I covered his mouth. Kai Jingnian immediately stopped, his entire face turning red. The flush spread all the way to his neck. So, you like me? I voiced the doubt in my heart. He was startled, his eyes wide as he looked at me. Then he cautiously asked, would you be scared? I shook my head. So, is it liking? This time, he nodded. Yes, I do like you. After saying that, he stared at me nervously. I read the letter you gave me. Don't worry, I won't bother you. I will restrain myself and observe propriety. Without your consent, I will never entertain any improper thoughts about you. He anxiously raised his fingers, looking as if he were about to make a vow. I did indeed send him a letter. That was because I thought he had no interest in matters between men and women. He then proposed a collaboration. After marriage, we will appear as husband and wife in public, but we can live separately at home. We will not interfere with each other. If one day you find a woman you truly love, simply give me a divorce letter. I had originally intended never to marry, but I must think of my parents and the other sisters in the clan. That's why I came up with this plan. Even after returning home, I remained in a daze. Kai Jingnian's words still echoed in my ears. 3 years ago, when I visited your home, I fell in love with you at first sight. But at that time, my status was humble, and I dared not hope for more. Even when I received your letters in Yangju, I could hardly believe it. I thought, if I could pass the imperial examination with distinction, there might still be a chance for me to reach for you. If not, no matter how unwilling, I should let go. Miss Bu. If you still have doubts, or if you wish to call off the engagement, I, Kai, will certainly comply. It was I who concealed my feelings first. But in matters of love, how can one truly hide them? In matters of love, how can one truly hide them? I carefully pondered over this final sentence. So, in my previous life, Kai Jingnian wasn't uninterested in women. Was it because of me? I couldn't process such a thing all at once and stayed home for 3 full days without going out. By the time I went out again, the matter of Kai Jingnian being impeached by Jiyu Jingchu had already blown up. 2 brilliant young men had become sworn enemies. Jiyu Jingchu openly mocked him in the court, climbing the social ladder, a despicable and shameless man, living a life of petty scheming. I disdain to associate with such a person. Yet, for some reason, Kai Jingnian did not refute it. Everyone said he was guilty. Rumors even began to circulate that his talent was nothing but an empty reputation. The most undeserved top scholar in history. I suspect this matter is also connected to the Bu family. It's possible that Minister Bu had a hand in facilitating things during the imperial examinations. Wasn't the chief examiner this time a disciple of Minister Bu? Birds of a feather flock together. No wonder Miss Bu wants to marry him. I hurriedly went to find Kai Jingnian's home. Why didn't you explain clearly? Give a dog a bad name and hang him. You're such a fool. I was so angry that I tried to push him, but he grabbed my hand. Have you thought it through? If you regret it now and break off the engagement with me, you can cut ties with me, nor will it implicate the Bu family. I frowned. In these 3 days, I had never once thought of calling off the engagement. What I thought about was my past life. I sadly realized that Jiyu Jingchu might never have loved me. Thus, our marriage was like a stagnant pond, so calm that not a single ripple could be stirred. I thought of a concubine from Jiyu Jingchu's previous life. Her family was in business and had accumulated a great deal of wealth. When she was first taken into the household, Jiyu Jingchu treated her exceptionally well. Later, the concubine's family fell into decline and was saddled with a mountain of debt. Jiyu Jingchu suddenly found an excuse to neglect her. The jade you gave me last year was sold by her. Just send such a woman away. The concubine cried out, saying the jade was a gift from the master. No one believed her. It wasn't until recently that I came to realize that perhaps what she said was true. Fortunately, in my previous life, seeing her lonely and miserable, I only sent her to the manor and still had her well taken care of. Kai Jingnian's intense gaze brought me back from my memories. He panicked, opening his mouth to ask, "Are you really planning to break off our engagement, just because I like you? If that's the case, can I endure it? I'll endure not liking you, alright? If I don't call off the engagement, will you bring the Bu family down with you?" I looked up at him. Kai Jingnian was stunned for a moment, then suddenly laughed. It was like the sky after a rainstorm, clear and bright, shining as if newly washed. "Then I will go find him, to tell the world that I never did such a thing. I will never let you down, nor will I let our teacher down. So this is where you were waiting for me. Then go ahead," I laughed and said. "Go tell Jiyu Jingchu that you're not just a pretty face, alright." Kai Jingnian turned and left. He even broke into a little jog toward the end. For 2 lifetimes, I have never seen such a lively side of him. Later, I learned that he had gone to lodge a complaint with the emperor. In his youthful vigor, he was also open and fearless. As a student of the emperor, he engaged in a direct debate with Jiyu Jingchu right in front of the emperor. Every time Jiyu Jingchu raised a doubt, he would refute it. Until the emperor's gaze upon him grew increasingly admiring, until Jiyu Jingchu had nothing left to say, he reluctantly bowed his head. "My apologies. I have wronged Lord Kai." Kai Jingnian waved his hand indifferently. "It's a small matter. We are colleagues, both working for His Majesty, so I understand. But I also have some doubts here, and I hope Lord Jiyu can help clear them up." Before Jiyu Jingchu could react, Kai Jingnian pressed on with a series of questions. That orphan girl from Yangju had a rare military strategy book, which was taken from her by force a month ago. She was killed on her way to the capital to file a complaint, and that rare book was recently given by you, sir, to General Chang. I wonder where you, Lord Jiyu, obtained that rare book. Jiyu Jingchu frowned tightly, about to speak, but was interrupted by Kai Jingyan. "Your Honor, please don't rush, I have other matters to ask about as well. Your Honor can go back and think it over carefully. Once you've sorted it out, you can answer everything at once." Thus, one after another, matters were brought up by Kai Jingyan. Jiyu Jingchu was visibly flustered. The newly ascended emperor's face turned ashen with anger. That very day, Jiyu Jingchu was sent to prison. Kai Jingyan left the palace alone and came straight to my house. At that time, Xiangji was learning the rumors from outside. "You wouldn't know, miss." But Jiyu Jingchu was sweating profusely under our Lord Kai's questioning, completely unable to fight back. "It's just that our Lord Kai is so eloquent outside, yet when he comes before you, miss, he always..." Halfway through her words, Xiangji saw Kai Jingyan approaching and hurriedly fell silent. Finding an excuse to leave, when we finally stood face to face, Kai Jingyan nervously began, "Will you be unhappy, Herr?" Seeing my confusion, he explained, "Will you be upset if I treat him this way?" "No, Jiyu Jingchu and I are already a thing of the past, and he is now reaping what he sowed. In his previous life, he held a high position and naturally knew many secrets that others were unaware of, but he was too impatient. He was even willing to take lives to achieve his goals. It was only a matter of time before something went wrong, but I never expected that he would be released after just one night in prison." Kai Jingyan was also furious, but there was nothing he could do about it. Because the one who released him was the emperor. Not only did he release him, but he also promoted him 2 ranks. Jiyu Jingchu was the talk of the town for a time. The winds of the capital shifted in an instant. It was all because Kai Jingyan was jealous and deliberately caused trouble. "Those are all slanders. Lord Jiyu loves the people as his own children and would never do such things." I hurried to find Kai Jingyan, only to see him having tea with the Prince of Minute. Both of them looked at me in astonishment. Just as I hesitated, the Prince of Minute smiled and said, "I presume this must be the Miss Bu Qingyang whom Lord Kai has been longing for day and night." "Yes." Kai Jingyan stood up and pulled me to sit by his side. I was taken aback and quickly lowered my head. Before leaving, Prince Minute couldn't resist teasing as well. "I see that Miss Bu is also quite concerned about Lord Kai." Kai Jingyan was very pleased. "She is naturally worried about me." I looked over and saw the brilliance in his eyes overflowing uncontrollably, so I quickly turned my face away, but secretly breathed a sigh of relief. On the day of my grand wedding with Kai Jingyan, it was unusually quiet and deserted. All the court officials had gone to Jiyu Jingchu's place. Only 1/3 of the seats were filled, and the expressions on everyone's faces were quite awkward. Later, some people simply left early. Kai Jingyan grabbed my hand and gave it a squeeze. "Sorry for putting you through that." I shook my head. He had known all along that not many people would show up today, yet they still followed the standard procedures, even taking care to select each dish with great attention. What more could I possibly find fault with? Leaving it untouched would be a waste. So why not invite the neighbors over to sit and chat? It'll be livelier. Kai Jingyan's eyes lit up, and he nodded eagerly. He still lives on the same long street as before, with ordinary folks as his neighbors. Hearing that they were invited to his home for a feast, the guests felt it wouldn't be right to come empty-handed. "Lord Kai, my family doesn't have much to offer, but these 2 eggs were laid by our hen this morning. I couldn't bear to eat them myself. So I wish you an early arrival of a precious son, Lord Kai. These are fresh vegetables from my garden, just picked from the field. Please take a look." Everyone watched him eagerly as he smiled and said, "Just come and enjoy the feast. No need to bring anything." "All right, I appreciate your kindness. But after we finish eating, take everything back with you. How about that?" Upon hearing this, everyone became displeased. "That won't do at all. This one meal of yours is worth so much of what we have. If you don't accept it, we won't eat." "All right then, we'll accept it. Everyone, please take a seat." I took a step forward and said with a smile. Kai Jingyan hurriedly said, If Madam says to accept it, then we shall accept it. The wedding banquet was truly a unique and lively affair. Joy and excitement filled the air, with blessings overflowing. Kai Jingyan had a few extra drinks, and by the time he returned to his room, his cheeks were slightly flushed. He buried his face in the crook of my neck and murmured softly, "I never expected the old man next door to have such a strong tolerance for alcohol. I can barely keep up with him." His breath brushed against the back of my ear, tickling me. Bu Qingyang, is it really only a marriage in name for the public eye? Today is my wedding night. He paused, "If you don't want to, then forget it." I said I wouldn't force you. As if deflated, he suddenly moved away. But I had him by the neck. "Lord Kai, are you playing hard to get?" Kai Jingyan stared at my lips and swallowed. "A little bit. I just don't know if it worked." I let out a light laugh and kissed him briefly, like a dragonfly skimming the water, yet he trembled all over, pressing against my back the moment I tried to pull away. I widened my eyes. The man's muffled voice came through. "You started it first. I want us to be husband and wife even when we're alone." I smiled and played along, until my whole body was too exhausted to lift an arm, drenched in sweat. Only then did I suddenly realize that my previous life seemed to have been lived in vain. They say enemies are bound to cross paths, and I actually ran into Jiu Jingchu on the day of my return visit. He was taking Liu Wanqin back to her parents' home, Kai Jingyan, and I moved our carriage aside to let them pass. This made Jiu Jingchu quite pleased with himself. "Bu Qingyang, do you regret it?" His horse stopped beside us, and he said lightly, but I had no time to respond to him. Inside the carriage, Kai Jingyan was kissing my lips. "Bu Qingyang, what's wrong? Don't you even dare to see me?" I sighed inwardly. Having lived a lifetime, how could I still be so narrow-minded? So, I lifted the carriage curtain and looked over. Jiu Jingchu's pupils suddenly contracted sharply. "What were you two doing just now?" "What could we be doing? We're husband and wife, and it's not like we were in public." "What business is it of his anyway?" "Bu Qingyang, how can you be so shameless?" Jiu Jingchu trembled with rage. I looked utterly bewildered. How is my husband and I being shameless? Instead, "Lord Jiu, why aren't you riding in the same carriage with your wife on your wedding day?" Jiu Jingchu took a deep breath, struggling to calm his emotions. "I'll make you regret this." He spurred his horse and galloped away, disappearing into the distance in the blink of an eye. Liu Wanqin hurriedly lifted the carriage curtain, only to find that her husband had already ridden far away. She stamped her foot in frustration, standing at the front of the car, glaring at me hatefully. "Are you satisfied?" I thought of Kai Jingyan's performance on our wedding night and nodded. I was indeed quite satisfied. Everything is satisfactory. And it seems she is not very satisfied. Not only am I satisfied, but my family is also very satisfied. After the meal, Father took Kai Jingyan to the study to discuss matters. My mother and I sat together, chatting about everyday matters. "I see that Jingyan is no less capable than Jingchu. When you first brought it up, I was worried for a while, but now it seems I was just being overly concerned." I lowered my head, embroidering mandarin ducks, and replied with a smile, "It's good that mother can rest assured, although he is facing some difficulties now. Fortunately, his temperament is neither arrogant nor impatient. Your father said it's not necessarily a bad thing." Mother is comforting me about the recent matters between Jiu Jingchu and Kai Jingyan. Although the emperor has released Jiu Jingchu and even promoted him to a higher rank, but he did not punish Kai Jingyan either. This indicates that the matter was not as the rumors outside had suggested. Judging by your expression, he must have already spoken to you. Mother was very pleased. He must truly value you to keep you informed of everything. Qingyang. As soon as she finished speaking, Kai Jingyan was already at the door. He rushed straight to me, then suddenly realized something and hurriedly bowed to my mother. Mother could no longer hold back her laughter. "Go on. Take your husband for a stroll around the house." Kai Jingyan blushed and stammered his farewell. As soon as we left mother's courtyard, he couldn't help but grab my hand. My face flushed as I looked at the servants filling the courtyard, and I couldn't help but give a slap. Ouch! Qingyang, be gentle. Kai Jingyan suddenly leaned in, looking pitiful and aggrieved. I was greatly shocked and hurriedly quickened my steps. Qingyang. Kai Jingyan followed closely behind, until we reached my boudoir, just as I was about to close the door. He quickly squeezed in. He even closed the door behind him. What are you closing the door for in broad daylight? I reached out to open the door, but he pulled me into a tight embrace. Kai Jingyan rested his chin on my shoulder, holding me by the waist and swaying gently. I am very happy. I froze. He kissed my earlobe and repeated, your husband is very happy today. I know. So why is my husband happy today? Because my wife only has eyes for me. Since when did I only have eyes for him? Kai Jingyan pulled me along as he walked forward, forcing me to step back until I stumbled onto the bed. His palm pressed against my waist, supporting the small of my back. His lips brushed against mine. Even when my wife met Jiyu Jingchu, her eyes were still only on me. His voice was bewitching, irresistibly tempting. This was an experience I had never had before. It was an itch that clawed at my heart and gnawed at my liver, making me want only to draw closer to him, and I truly did just that. Pressing against his lips, I whispered softly, only you. Kai Jingyan froze all over, his eyes widening abruptly. I tried to push him away and escape, but was effortlessly pulled back into someone's embrace. Kai Jingyan is sick. He holds me and giggles foolishly to himself. From time to time, he kisses my lips. Only when he has laughed enough does he mumble, at your parents' home, is it not good? Before I could finish, he suddenly looked up, his eyes sparkling as they fixed on me. Can we go back? A thought struck me, and my heart sank in alarm. Just as I was about to refuse, Kai Jingyan grabbed my hand and placed it over his heart. Qingyang, please be gentle with me, won't you? Oh my God. So, I found an excuse to go back with him. My mother quickly had someone pack the soup that was still simmering in the kitchen. Take it back to eat. Thank you, Mother. Kai Jingyan did not refuse either, bowing respectfully, even though I had already walked several steps away. I could hear my mother's barely suppressed laughter from behind. Kai Jingyan quickly grabbed my hand, holding it tightly. Mother will understand. It was already 3 months later when I heard news of Jiyu Jingchu again. He had been imprisoned once more. This time, the emperor personally issued the imperial decree. Execute him publicly as a warning to all. As for the reason, it was summarized in just a few words. All the crimes that Kai Jingyan had exposed about him were written on the indictment. That day, Kai Jingyan returned from his duties. He wants to see you. It was Jiyu Jingchu. I went to see him one last time. Jiyu Jingchu in the cell looked clean and tidy, seemingly having suffered no punishment. I never thought that in the end, it would be me who regrets it. His eyes were red, his voice hoarse. What I thought was a glimpse of foresight turned out to be nothing but a death warrant. Bu Qingyang. Did you foresee this step long ago? I shook my head. No, I am not a deity, incapable of predicting everything. I just felt he was dangerous. That kind of madness was terrifying. If only I had married you. Liu Wanqin is truly not as good as you. When she learned of my misfortune, she took the family's belongings and ran off with someone else. Laughably, she even took a fancy to a stable hand. Bu Qingyang. I truly regret it so much. I looked up at Jiyu Jingchu. It's a good thing you didn't marry me. I'm doing quite well now. After a long while, Jiyu Jingchu finally replied, did you not have a good life in your previous life? I thought it was fine before, but now I realize it's not. A life of following the rules and accepting fate was my past life. Knowing Jiyu Jingchu was stubborn and set in his ways, I never went against him. Knowing his methods were not entirely above board, I turned a blind eye. What I didn't see wouldn't trouble me. Everyone says it's good, so I tell myself it's fine. I should be content, but only now do I realize what truly good means. Gu Jingchu slumped to the ground, his face streaked with tears. If I beg you to help me, will you help me for the sake of our past life's bond? He rarely appeared so weak and pitiful. Yet I shook my head and refused him. Everything is just your own fault. No one can help you. When he chose to tell the emperor about his identity as a reborn person, it was destined that he would die. 3 months was enough time for the emperor to learn many things about the future from his mouth, but it was also enough to drain all his value, especially when the emperor discovered his connection to the new emperor from his previous life. He became even more fearful. Gu Jingchu single-handedly altered the course of the future. A clean death was the last bit of dignity the emperor granted him. Aren't you afraid I'll tell them that you're also a reborn person? I turned cold. You can go and say it, but they would have to believe it. I am just a woman. I have done nothing. Even if I were reborn, I would pose no threat to them. Obviously, Gu Jingchu had also thought of this. If there is another life, I would choose you. I find it disgusting. If there is another life, I will go directly to Yangju to find Kai Jingnian. I simply won't give Gu Jingchu the chance to reject me. When I came out of the prison, I found Kai Jingnian's carriage waiting outside. I had just lifted the carriage curtain when he pulled me inside and held me in his arms. You were in there for half an incense stick's time. Subtracting the time it took to walk, that's enough for you to exchange over a dozen sentences. Qingyang, I won't ask what you talked about, but you have to kiss me 20 times. Otherwise, I'll feel wronged. Kai Jingnian placed my hand over his heart, practically pouting as he waited. I resigned myself and leaned in to kiss him. But he suddenly deepened the kiss. It wasn't until I was gasping for breath and glaring at him in annoyance that he finally said with a smile, "That's 1 down, and 19 more to go. I'll owe you for now." Kai Jingnian, "Madam, I'm jealous. Just indulge me this once." After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. Rumors of Xie Qingyang and the actress Yun-Yi swearing lifelong devotion to each other spread throughout the capital. Xie Qingyang, who had always been aloof and proud, surprisingly did not investigate the origin of the rumors, until someone began to mock Yun-Yi for her wishful thinking. Everyone in the capital knew that the eldest son of the Xie family had been betrothed since childhood to the only daughter of the imperial merchant Shen family. The two grew up together, a perfect match in talent and beauty. Yun-Yi's status was not even worthy of being a concubine. The public outcry grew increasingly intense. Unable to bear it any longer, Xie Qingyang had a notice posted. Yun-Yi was the sister of his benefactor, and he had been entrusted with her care by the benefactor on his deathbed. He would soon marry Yun-Yi as his equal wife, and their marriage certificate had already been submitted to the authorities, awaiting only the selection of an auspicious date for the grand wedding. Everyone suddenly understood and praised the young master for his noble righteousness. He wrote to me to explain, "E was the only person our benefactor could not rest easy about before passing away. I promised our benefactor that I would take good care of her. My feelings for her are only those of a brother and sister. However, the rumors have already tarnished her reputation, so I have no choice but to marry her. In the future when we marry, you can just think of it as gaining another sister. In this lifetime, I will love only you." After reading it, I tore up the half-written letter on the table. I rewrote an urgent letter and sent it to the border. How laughable. There are so many men in this world. Where on earth did Xie Qingyang get the confidence to think I would be willing to share a husband with someone else? General Liu, are you willing to marry? The letter was long, but its content was brief. I stared at it for a long while, but in the end, I did not write any more. Instead, I ordered the maidservant to pack the luggage. Reflecting on this period, I finally understand why my uncle and aunt repeatedly hesitated to speak. They must have heard the news long ago. No wonder Xie Qingyang initially promised to come and take me home after a little over a month. Now, the peach blossoms in Jiangnan have already withered, their fragrance filling the air, yet there is still no sign of him. It seems I won't be waiting for him after all. As the eldest son of the Xie family, he must have many matters to attend to for his wedding. Half a month after returning to the capital, Xie Qingyang finally came to visit. My parents were away on business and had not yet returned, so I had to receive him myself. He looked me up and down, his brows slightly furrowed. "Why did you come back alone? Didn't we agree that I would come to pick you up? Jiangnan is 1,000 miles from the capital. If anything were to happen to you, a woman, on the journey, how could I explain it to your parents?" In the past, I would have already pouted and accused him of breaking his promise, demanding a whole list of assurances from him. But now, I just smiled and said nothing. After a pause, he spoke again. "Did you receive the letter?" So that's what it was. I was wondering why he suddenly thought of me. I nodded. "Don't overthink it. Back then, Yunqing once saved my life. After the incident at his home, his younger sister went missing. A few months ago, I finally found his sister, because I took extra care of her. Some people with ulterior motives took advantage of the situation and tarnished her reputation. The fault lies with me, so it should be resolved by me. Our dynasty values promises. I once promised Yunqing that I would take good care of her, and marrying her now is to fulfill that promise." He glanced at me, his expression as cool and detached as usual, though his voice softened slightly. "Yi has been wandering from place to place since her family fell into decline, enduring many hardships. You grew up in luxury and comfort, with a somewhat spoiled and willful temperament. After we marry, I hope you can rein in your temper and treat her like a younger sister." I suddenly lost the interest to listen further and coldly interrupted Xie Qingyang's words. "Did you come just to tell me that in the future, as your wife, I must hold Yun-Yi in high regard? Although we are both equal wives, there must still be a distinction between primary and secondary, between her and me. Who is primary and who is secondary?" He was taken aback for a moment. We had grown up together since childhood. Because he spoke little, I never interrupted him whenever he opened his mouth. This was the first time, of course. It was also the first time he explained himself to me for someone else. He had a cool temperament and was not naturally gentle. In the past, when he made me angry, at most I would just give him the cold shoulder for a few days, then I would forgive him. Never needing an explanation, in just a moment, he returned to his usual cool and detached self. "Of course, you are the main wife. There is no romantic relationship between me and her. I married her as a secondary wife only because she said the Yun family has a rule. They will never be concubines, you know. Given her current status, it's not easy to find a good family willing to marry her. You've always been generous, although this matter wasn't discussed with you in advance. I know you can understand. Between you and me, it's just like before. Indeed, I can understand, but I don't accept it." The words of refusal were already on the tip of my tongue. His servant rushed in, flustered and panicked. "Young master, Miss Yun has suddenly fainted." Xie Qingyang abruptly stood up, not even taking the time to bid me farewell. At first, it was a brisk walk, and later, it turned into a full-on run. Xie Qingyang had been groomed as an heir since childhood. Coming from a noble family that emphasized the dignified and unhurried demeanor of a gentleman, this meant that a scholar's gait should be composed and measured, never rushed. Xie Qingyang, mature beyond his years, had kept this in mind since he was young. Even when I injured my leg playing polo last year, he didn't lose his composure when he came to check on my injury. It suddenly dawned on me that the difference between love and not love isn't about how many times you say I love you. It's about being willing to break all worldly rules for you. I don't know if Xie Qingyang loves Yun-Yi, but one thing is certain, I am not special in his heart. The Shun and Xie families have been close for generations. Although the Xie family is wealthy, Mr. Xie passed away from illness in his prime. It wasn't until Xie Qingyang achieved the top 3 honors in the imperial examinations and was appointed as a vice minister that the family regained its former glory. During the Xie family's period of decline, the Shun family and I not only never considered breaking off the engagement but also provided support to the Xie family in every possible way. Financial assistance was the most basic form of help for Xie Qingyan's studies. My parents not only hired renowned tutors for him but also took his academic materials with them whenever they traveled for business, seeking guidance from local scholars along the way. It can be said that even without this marriage contract, the Shun and Xie families shared a bond of mutual support and gratitude. It seems that when help is given for too long, others begin to take it for granted. Originally, my parents planned to start preparing for our wedding after returning from this long journey, thinking that life after marriage would not be as carefree as at home. I packed my belongings and went to my maternal grandparents' home in Jiangnan, after sending me off. Xie Qingyang looked at me in silence for a long time, not mentioning his departure. I grew up with him since childhood and believe I understand him better than myself. I smiled to reassure him. I'll only be in Jiangnan for a little over a month. If you miss me, just write to me. He cleared his throat awkwardly, shifting his gaze away. I'll come for you by January at the latest. Don't you dare return on your own. I stared at the faint redness of his earlobes. Casually, I replied, All right, I know. But in my heart, I thought, once we are married, I must change his reserved nature. Who would have thought that I only went to Jiangnan for 3 months? Upon my return, my fiancé was about to marry someone else, and I, even my family, were only informed after the marriage had been arranged. How utterly ridiculous. Xie Qingyang always said he married Yun Yi to quell the rumors, while also fulfilling the promise he made to Yun Qing all those years ago, but he didn't know. This wasn't the first time I had seen him since returning to the capital. On the day my carriage entered the capital, I happened to see the two of them coming out of a jewelry shop. Xie Qingyang, who had always been aloof and self-restrained, actually took the initiative to support the arm of the woman beside him as he stepped over the threshold. Others might not think much of it, but I knew. Xie Qingyang enjoyed a life of wealth and privilege in his youth, but later his family fell into decline. And from a young age, he had already tasted the warmth and coldness of the world. Thus, when interacting with others, he maintained a firm sense of distance. He was exceptionally talented, yet he was also aloof and solitary. Many women in the capital admired him, but he never allowed anyone to step into his personal space. Even when official duties required him to visit places of entertainment, he would sit alone, never seeking company. His friends once teased him, calling it what they jokingly referred to as upholding male virtue. To put it jokingly, when it comes to upholding male virtue, even if I doubted myself, I never doubted him, because he never set any social boundaries with me. He would personally tuck spring flowers into my hair, and in the winter snow, he would share an umbrella with me. He would even carry me directly to seek medical treatment when I was injured. He said, "You and I will marry in the future, and as husband and wife, we are one. I treat you differently from others." But from that day on, I knew something had changed. Between him and me, we could never go back to how things were before. After that day, we never saw each other again. He was busy with official duties, busy getting married. I was busy too, busy planning for the future, busy cutting ties with the past. The reply from the border arrived, and as I had expected, Lu Zheng agreed. Yet it was also unexpected, because I received replies for 3 consecutive days. On the first day, it was brief. Who? On the second day, equally brief. You? Fine. On the third day, a real reply finally came. Wait for me. I'll be back soon. Even through the letter, I could sense Lu Zheng's urgency. My gloomy mood, which had lingered for so long, began to lift because of these few short words. The maids told me that the messengers were all surprised, despite the great distance. There was a letter every single day. How wonderful this feeling must be. I couldn't help but chuckle, thinking as I picked up my pen to write a reply. Yes, no rush, I'll start preparing for the wedding first. Otherwise, I'm afraid there will be several more letters in a row. Everything at the border requires his decision. I suppose he cannot be away for too long. The procedures of proposing marriage, delivering betrothal gifts, and welcoming the bride should be completed within a month. Of course, I also have my own selfish motives. Now I am like a laughingstock in the capital. Those who once envied me now praise my righteousness and magnanimity with their words, yet I can always see mockery and scorn in their eyes. After all, a proper legitimate daughter, a childhood bond, could not compare to an actress, a debt of gratitude. There are so many ways to repay a favor, and many methods to resolve rumors. Yet Xie Qingyang chose the one that embarrassed me the most. He kept insisting it was the best approach. But he completely disregarded my feelings. Rumors don't arise without cause. Their behavior crossed the boundaries between men and women, yet they, under the banner of quelling rumors, directly bypassed me, the legitimate fiancé, and formalized the marriage contract. I don't know if Xie Qingyang did it intentionally or unintentionally. To this day, he has recounted the kindness of the Yun family, reiterated his own helplessness, and praised my magnanimity, but he forgot to ask for my thoughts. Forgot to offer an apology to me and my family. He dares to act this way, relying solely on my affection for him, relying on the friendship accumulated over generations between our two families, relying on his current high position, while I am merely from a merchant family. I have said it before, I understand him. This is both a blessing and a misfortune, but he does not understand me. He only knows that I admire him, yet he does not know that what I love is not his appearance or his talents, but the one who was spotless and loyal to his partner. Once such a person becomes tainted, I will decisively abandon them. The maid Yua hurried in, pulling me back from my wandering thoughts. Miss, the manager of Brocade Workshop sent someone to say that someone wants to buy the clothes you previously ordered. My clothes? You're asking about that? Has the Shen family fallen so low that we have to sell my clothes to get by? No, it's just that the buyer is a bit special. Who's there? Xie family's eldest son, Xie Qingyang. I raised an eyebrow and gave the order. Help me get dressed. I'll go talk to them myself. When I arrived, I could see from a distance that the shop was packed with people. A soft, gentle voice could faintly be heard. Brother Qingyang, although I really like this dress, the shopkeeper has already said that it was custom-made for Miss Shen. Taking what someone else loves is indeed not good. If it causes a misunderstanding between sisters over a piece of clothing, then it is my fault. Every word is reasonable, every sentence yields. It's fine. Muhe has been generous since childhood and won't hold it against you, Xie Qingyang calmly reassured. And since it's displayed, it means they're willing to buy and sell. Since it's a transaction, we pay. They provide the goods, no need to feel guilty. Thank you, Brother Qingyang, for the guidance. I was too narrow-minded before, thinking the wrong way. The hesitation and unease in the voice vanished, replaced by admiration and clarity. After I entered, what I saw was the lingering pity in Xie Qingyang's eyes and the unmistakable affection on Yun Yi's face. I didn't believe Xie Qingyang couldn't see it. The Xie Qingyang of the past was a gentleman of upright demeanor, keeping others at a distance. Whenever a woman shows any affection for him, he immediately distances himself. I also laugh at how exaggerated he is. He seriously explains to me that this is the self-awareness of someone who is already engaged. But now, this affection is cloaked in the guise of gratitude and disguised as sibling affection. He can no longer feel it. Or perhaps he is also immersed in it. With so many onlookers, my arrival went unnoticed. The shopkeeper was already sweating profusely with anxiety and could only continue explaining. Master Xie, I sincerely apologize. This item is not for sale. It was a new employee who didn't know better and hung it out directly. I have already explained this to Miss Yoon. To express our apology, our brocade workshop is willing to offer a 30% discount on all the clothing Miss Yoon purchases today. Since it is your shop's responsibility, there is no need for further explanation. Having been immersed in the official circles for several years, Xie Qingyang had already developed the commanding presence of someone in a high position. With just a slight lowering of his voice, he left the shopkeeper speechless. Yuni's gaze paused briefly among the crowd. My gaze met hers across the crowd, then parted. Then, with understanding, she said, "Shopkeeper, this is, after all, your store's mistake. And I truly adore this dress. How about this? 3 days from now is my birthday banquet. If your brocade workshop can tailor-make an identical one for me, I won't hold your mistake against you. Miss Yoon, I sincerely apologize. Not to mention 3 days, it's simply impossible to rush the making of this dress. As for the design, it was privately drawn by Miss Shen, and we have no authority to decide. Can't buy it, can't make it. This Miss Shen is quite domineering. Is the brocade workshop owned by the Shen family or something?" Yuni was already growing impatient. "Miss Yoon, please don't be anxious. I've already sent someone to consult Miss Shen on whether she agrees to sell this dress. I believe we'll have an answer soon." The shopkeeper found himself in a dilemma. He couldn't tell others that this was indeed the Shen family's business, nor could he make the decision to sell the dress. Miss Yoon is right. It's just a piece of clothing. The Shen family is indeed being overbearing. The onlookers began to whisper among themselves. But if it were me, I designed the dress myself precisely to be unique, so of course I wouldn't want others to wear it too. Someone voiced a dissenting opinion. But this is no ordinary person. It's the co-wife of Miss Shen's fiancé, and also the sister of young Master Xie's benefactor. Exactly. Once she marries into the Xie family, they'll have to see each other every day. Besides, she's already given up her husband-to-be. Why fuss over a single dress? True, I heard Miss Shen is deeply in love with young Master Xie. The Shen family has only her as their sole daughter. Perhaps in the future, the Shen family will rely on the Xie family for support. The volume of the crowd was not low, and Yuni's gaze, once again directed at me, carried a hint of smugness. Yet Xie Qingyang seemed not to hear these whispers, sitting at the head of the table with lowered eyes, sipping tea. I grabbed Yue, who was beside me and couldn't bear it, wanting to go out and argue. I walked out from the crowd. Since Miss Yoon cannot find a suitable dress in the vast capital, yet she has taken a fancy to this non-sale item of mine. A gentleman does not take what others cherish, but rather helps others achieve their desires. With a double entendre, I smiled and picked up the dress, placing it into Xie Qingyan's hands. "Consider this dress as my early wedding gift to you both." Since I entered, Xie Qingyan's composure has been shattered. The moment the words young Master Xie were uttered, his frown deepened even more. "Muhe, speak properly. It's just a piece of clothing. There's no need to be so sharp-tongued." "That's right, it's just a piece of clothing. So why does Miss Yoon insist on having mine?" From what I observe of Miss Yoon's appearance, she possesses an abundance of purity but lacks a certain radiance. Such a vibrant and luxurious cut doesn't quite suit her. Judging by her usual attire, she tends to favor simplicity and elegance. But today, she seems determined to have this dress. Why is that? Shall I take a guess? Is it because something snatched away feels better? Or perhaps, never mind, Brother Qingyang, it's just a birthday banquet, after all. My Yun family has long since declined, and my beloved elder brother passed away at a young age. You're right, sister, I should recognize my own place and choose what suits me best. Yuni tugged at Xie Qingyan's sleeve, her despondent words both a concession and a reminder, truly worthy of her renowned reputation as an actress. Every gesture and movement exuded a delicate fragility. With a soft, charming voice, she spoke in a way that made anyone who saw her feel pity. But I'm not a man, so I'm not into that. Don't call me sister. I'm the only daughter of the Shen family. I have no younger sister. Shen Muhe. Xie Qingyan's voice was as cold as shards of ice. You don't have to target Yi everywhere. Marrying her was my decision, and she is only a secondary wife, so she won't threaten your position. With too many onlookers, Xie Qingyan's sense of apology faded, gradually growing impatient. I have already spoken with my mother. After she and I are married, I will choose an auspicious day to propose to your family. I have also explained to you that Yi's brother did me a great favor, and I promised to take care of his sister. If your heart is so narrow that you even begrudge a piece of clothing, then I can only ask your parents to keep you at home a little longer to learn more about a woman's virtues. Xie Qingyan's gaze was fixed directly on me, a hidden threat lurking in the depths of his eyes. In his eyes, it was merely a piece of clothing. Even if it's something I love, I'm not as desperate for it as Yi, so I should let her have it. But I am not a woman who endures humiliation to keep the peace. I am Shen Muhe, who could revive a failing shop at the age of 8 and had quietly built a business empire by 15 that rivaled the Shen family's. Ever since my first shop started turning a profit, I took over the Xie family's expenses from my father. It's just that my father advocates for the doctrine of the mean. The Shen family is already a royal merchant and no longer needs the title of the wealthiest. For so many years, aside from my family, no one knows the extent of my wealth. Wait, there is one exception. However, soon enough, he will be family too. Therefore, not being able to marry into the Xie family is no threat to me. I held the dress up in front of Xie Qingyang. I can give you the item, but you cannot take it. Does it look familiar? This was the birthday gift you gave me. You once said that from the style to the embroidery, this dress was tailor-made for me, one of a kind. Why doesn't the shopkeeper have the original draft? Because, to prevent the shop from making copies, you had already taken back the original design. I originally planned to wear this for you on your birthday, but what a shame, Tilda. You've seen it today. Although the person wearing it has changed, I imagine you're still pleased. Otherwise, you wouldn't have forced the merchant to sell it, knowing full well it was custom-made for me. The onlookers erupted in a chorus of boos. I thought it was a matter of jealousy, but it turns out it was a case of forgetting the old love for the new. I was willing to give it to you because what I cared about was never the dress itself, but your feelings. But now, the one who once cherished it so dearly has turned a blind eye to it, and it has lost its original meaning to me as well. Consider it returned to its rightful owner ahead of time today. With that, I ignored Xie Qingyang and left with Yue. Before leaving, Yue couldn't hold back her anger and muttered under her breath, "What kind of bullshit benefactor's sister is this? Even the fiancé he's been betrothed to since childhood has to suffer along." Though she called it muttering, everyone who needed to hear it did. Xie Qingyang stepped forward, wanting to pull me aside, but I avoided him. Now the anger was gone, leaving only guilt. Before he could speak, a startled "ah" came from behind. He turned around to see Yi crouching on the ground, clutching her ankle. Her eyes were red, and glistening tears hung from her lashes, but I still pretended to be strong and said, "Sister, no, Miss Shen, I'm sorry. I didn't know you would be so angry. Brother Qingyang, I genuinely like this dress. I didn't think too much about it." As she spoke, she rubbed her ankle, which was already swollen and red. I had never seen Xie Qingyang so flustered before. He scooped Yi into his arms, leaving me with just one sentence. "Muhe, I'm taking Yi to see a doctor first. I'll come find you later." Hearing this, Yi, resting on his shoulder, gave me a faint smile. Her eyes filled with provocation. I watched Xie Qingyan's figure disappear into the distance, slowly, walking out of my sight, slowly, walking out of the rest of my life. After that day, I went out even less. Originally, I was prepared to marry Xie Qingyang, so all the wedding arrangements had long been settled by my family. However, now that I have a different husband, the gifts I prepared for meeting the family are no longer appropriate. Especially the shoes and clothes I made for my future husband. It is still unclear how much leave Lu Zhang will have. My parents won't be home for a few more days, so I must do my best to handle all the necessary preparations for the wedding. Yue said Xie Qingyang wants to see me. I was busy sewing new clothes for Lu Zheng. I didn't want to see him at first, but then I thought there were some things that needed to be made clear, so I had him brought in. After I returned that day, I had all the gifts he had given me sent back, and he sent word that all affection and loyalty between us were severed. From now on, men and women would marry separately, with no further connection. At first, when he wrote to me, I tore up the letters right in front of the messenger boy. After several times, I suppose he grew angry. He never sent another. These past few days, though I haven't stepped out, Yue has kept me fully informed of their every move. Xie Qingyang, who has always disliked social engagements, has repeatedly taken Yun-Yi to various banquets, all to help her make more friends. He even went to great lengths to host a grand birthday celebration for her, making up for the regrets of her past years. Knowing she had no close relatives left, he asked his own mother to personally prepare her dowry, all to ensure she would marry with dignity, busy preparing things while listening on weekdays, just for a bit of fun, only reminded when hearing about preparing the dowry. Have you informed all the merchants of the Shen family? From now on, the Xie family will not make any purchases on credit. Ever since Mr. Xie passed away, although the Xie family's purchases were said to be on credit, the Shen family never came to collect. At that time, it was out of the belief that they would eventually become one family, a gesture of friendship and support. It seems Lady Xie doesn't think so, otherwise she wouldn't have so readily accepted Yun-Yi. Then there's no point in rushing. Don't worry, miss. After hearing about the dress incident last time, all the shopkeepers are holding their breath. Not only are they refusing credit, but they also frequently run out of stock. Hearing this, I laughed out loud. That's not necessary. After all, we're running a business. Why turn down money when it's there to be made? Understood. I'll pass your words along to the shopkeepers and make sure they bring out their best skills, aiming to drain the Xie family dry. I nodded. That's more like it. I have a grudge against the Xie family, not against money. When Xie Qingyang entered, I was just putting the finishing touches on the embroidery on the clothes. Seeing the new garment in my hands, clearly meant for a young man, his expression softened unusually. It's almost done. I didn't respond, continuing to focus on my work. I came to return the dress from that day. Felt terribly guilty after going back, and after much thought, decided to send it back to you. No need. Once I give something away, I won't take it back. Shen Muhe, you're not a child anymore. You can't be so willful. Perhaps out of a sense of guilt, Xie Qingyang wasn't angry. Instead, he lowered his voice to persuade her. Also, mentioned that she personally wrote you an invitation the day before her birthday. Why didn't you come? I looked up, my eyes filled with confusion. Why should I go? I don't even know her. Xie Qingyang looked weary, as if I were a clueless child. You will all be my wives in the future. Even if I regard her as a sister in my heart, others do not know. As my principal wife, you are in charge of the household. How well you get along with her is something everyone observes. Her elder brother once showed me great kindness, and after her family fell into decline, she endured even more hardship. You have lived in luxury since childhood, showered with affection and never having suffered any grievances. Now, just think of it as having an extra sister and be a little more accommodating to her. I found it amusing and stopped what I was doing to question him. Never suffered any grievances. Let's not even mention how your mother used to look down on me, thinking I was marrying above my station. Just consider the past month since I returned to the capital, the gossip from others. your indifference toward me, and Yun-Yi's constant provocations, both overt and covert. Have I not suffered enough grievances? I just don't speak of them. But Xie Qingyang, when Yun-Yi doesn't speak, you can see and feel her grievances. Yet why can't you see mine? Simply because I love you, because you are certain I will marry no one but you. I say these things not out of sorrow. I am merely expressing my discontent. He stepped forward and gently took away the garment I was sewing. Our wedding date has not been set yet, so there is no rush for the clothes. I know you love me deeply. In fact, I have already discussed privately with Yi that once she finds a man she truly cares for in the future, I will divorce her. But now that I have already agreed to marry her, why must you make things so difficult? Yi has taken a liking to a set of headwear, a unique piece from your Shen family shop. Later, before the wedding, you can present it to her as a gift in front of everyone, as a way of apologizing to her. It seems Xie Qingyang has clearly misunderstood the situation. He mistook my accusation for a confession, as a means for me to vie for favor. This time, I was truly amused by anger. With so many men in the world, where on earth did Xie Qingyang get the confidence to think I would be willing to share a husband with another? Xie Qingyang, have you never once considered that I might call off the engagement? Look at my recent behavior. What part of
marriage was arranged hastily? It was still the result of discussions between both parties. I believe you two will have a good life together. Then let's call off the engagement first. And wait for that kid Lu Zhang to come back before discussing marriage. Father made the final decision. I didn't pay much attention to the matter of calling off the engagement, because Lu Zhang had returned. He completely changed from his previous quiet, reasonable, and measured demeanor. He visited every day. Under the pretense of getting to know each other better, he would either drag my father into playing chess or accompany my mother in tasting tea. Yet he was a terrible chess player and knew nothing about the art of tea. His parents had intended to prevent him from getting too close to me, knowing that if rumors spread, it is always the woman who gets hurt. But in the end, they couldn't hold back any longer and had to negotiate the annulment of the engagement as soon as possible. According to Yue, when the engagement was called off, Xie Qingyang was not present. Mother Xie was quite straightforward. Mother Xie had never thought much of me. And now with Xie Qingyang's promising career and the praise he received for taking a second wife, she was even more dismissive. Nowadays, everyone knows that the eldest son of the Xie family is a man of his word, full of affection and righteousness. My family's willingness to call off the engagement was exactly what she had been hoping for. All I could think about was turning back to marry a legitimate daughter from a prominent family. Yue was indignant on my behalf, cursing the Xie family and Xie Qingyang every day in new and creative ways. As the person involved, I didn't mind at all. In fact, I thought it was for the best. If you hesitate when you should act decisively, you'll only bring trouble upon yourself. Since the engagement was so grand back then, the dissolution should now be carried out with equal formality. Otherwise, that scoundrel Xie Qingyang will keep thinking I still have lingering feelings for him, finding all sorts of ways to disgust me. What troubles me the most right now is actually Lu Zhang. I never knew before that he was such a person, smooth-talking and shameless. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught him sneaking a sip of my tea again. I couldn't help but chide him. Don't you have your own? I've already taken a sip from this one. We're practically married. Why bother with such trivialities? Have you heard of husband and wife as one? Since we're already one, why distinguish between yours and mine? I was dumbfounded, learning for the first time that idioms could be used this way, like a deceived woman. I accused him. You weren't like this before. Before, I thought you liked someone like Xie Qingyang, so I had to hold back. I was afraid you'd dislike me. So why aren't you holding back now? He rubbed his nose. In the past, we only saw each other once a year, so putting on an act was possible. But from now on, we'll be together day and night. How could I keep hiding it? Besides, letting you see my true personality early on gives you a chance to reconsider if you ever regret it. Before, you were a woman with a marriage contract, so I had to keep my distance. Otherwise, wouldn't that have ruined your reputation? Now that you're my fiancé, Wouldn't it feel a bit distant if I continued to hold back? I looked at his uncertain expression and asked him, Lu Zhang, do you like me? His eyes suddenly widened, his tone filled with surprise. Haven't I made it obvious enough? Just as I thought, but I only have feelings for you. I can't make you any promises. Maybe I'll only ever have feelings for you in this lifetime. Would you think it's not worth it? No, if you cannot fall in love with me, it must be my fault. When I loved Xie Qingyang, I loved everything about him. When I love you, Lu Zhang, I will love everything about you too. So, you just need to be yourself, without worrying about what others are like. These words were meant to comfort him. For I knew his worries. It is also about analyzing myself. I trust my own choices. He lowered his gaze, and I raised mine. We exchanged a knowing smile. In this marriage, we only need to be ourselves. Lu Zhang had already discussed it with the Lu family. The news of my broken engagement had just come out. And that very afternoon, Madame Lu arrived with matchmakers and a grand procession of betrothal gifts to propose marriage. The timing was tight, but both families had already met privately. All the formalities were thus kept simple. The Lu family felt guilty, while the Shen family felt heartache. The final outcome was reflected in the generous betrothal gifts and dowry. As a merchant, I was immensely satisfied with this. Even looking at Lu Zheng, he seemed much taller and more majestic. The subsequent progress went very smoothly. The wedding was also quite lively. On our wedding night, I thought Lu Zheng would take the initiative to suggest sleeping on the couch. After all, even with our past acquaintance, we had only known each other for just over a month, but I underestimated the thickness of his skin. He has now completely let himself go. Seeing my gaze sweep over the bed, he knew exactly what was on my mind. My dear, I've kept myself pure all these years. Now that we're finally married, I absolutely refuse to be a husband in name only. Besides, my mother is waiting to hold her grandchild. Could you bear to disappoint her? Seeing me waver, he pressed on with renewed determination. I will soon return to the frontier, and we will be separated by 1,000 miles. We should take advantage of this time to conceive a child early. Who knows when we will meet again next time? I thought about it and realized he was right. Lu Zhang had been back for over a month, and if we subtracted the time spent traveling, the time we could actually spend together was indeed limited. So I obediently let him into bed. I have never regretted any decision I have made. This is the first one. Other brides meet their in-laws and relatives on the second day after the wedding. As for me, I didn't even get up at all. I slept straight through until the third day, when it was time to return to my parents' home. Fortunately, Lu Zhang was protective, and my mother-in-law was kind. Otherwise, who knows what gossip might have spread. So, for the entire day at my parents' home, I didn't want to look Lu Zheng in the eye. He, on the other hand, didn't seem to mind and managed to keep my parents happy and entertained. But just as we were about to head home, we happened to run into Xie Qingyang bringing Yuni for a visit. Xie Qingyang hurried forward and pulled away Lu Zheng's hand that was supporting me. General Lu, there is a distinction between men and women. It is inappropriate for you to behave this way toward my fiancé. Both Lu Zheng and I stood frozen in place. It seems we did not see Xie Qingyang at our wedding, so I suppose he must have just returned. Lu Zheng gently patted the spot that had just been touched. Lord Xie is mistaken. While there is a distinction between men and women, it does not apply to husband and wife. My newlywed wife and I are at her father's house. I can't think of anything that would be inappropriate. Wife, who? Lu Zheng smiled and looked at me. Xie Qingyang's face instantly turned pale. Muhe, he's joking. Right, since I was young, I knew you would marry me one day. I was only away for a while. How could you possibly marry someone else? We agreed that after I married Yi, I would come to your family to propose. I've already prepared everything to give you a grand and unforgettable wedding. You even sewed the clothes to give me. I look at Lu Zheng's perfectly fitting outer garment. Master Xie, mind your words. That was sewn for my husband, not for you. He suddenly looked up, his eyes bloodshot, his voice raised. So you've long wanted to marry someone else, haven't you? Shen Muhe, how cruel you are. After all these years of feelings between us, you just cast them aside as you please. How laughable, that I was the only one who took the marriage seriously. You're still foolishly planning our future. Lu Zheng couldn't bear to listen any longer and wanted to speak up. I held him back, signaling that I would handle it. I gently rolled up my sleeve and raised my hand to deliver a slap. Yuni rushed forward in tears to support Xie Qingyang. I shook my somewhat numb palm. This slap is for betraying me first and humiliating me afterward. Miss Xin, how could you resort to violence? Brother Qingyang has always held you in his heart. Marrying me was merely a forced decision, a last resort. If Yuni had kept quiet, it would have been fine. But the moment she spoke, I felt the urge to retort. In the past, when my parents and family were not around, I dared only to show a fraction of my anger. Now, with my parents standing behind me and my general husband by my side, I have all the support I need. I've been wanting to slap you for a long time. Miss Yoon, not calling me sister this time. I heard Miss Yoon has a family rule, never be a concubine. But Xie Qingyang once told me you two agreed to divorce in the future. I'm curious, Miss Yoon. A pure girl couldn't find a suitable family to be a wife, forcing Xie Qingyang to elevate you to a co-wife. In the future, when you're old and faded, and have been married, will you still find a good family? Forgive my ignorance. I hope Miss Yoon can enlighten me a little. Lu Zheng beside me couldn't help but chuckle. My lady, you have quite a way with words. He then glanced at Xie Qingyang's swollen cheek and gave me a thumbs up. Your skills are impressive as well. I paid no heed and approached Xie Qingyang. You've always spoken of loving me, of marrying me. But ever since your Yoon sister appeared, have I still been in your eyes? I, Su Muhe, am withdrawing from the engagement with dignity and marrying openly and honorably. What right does a faithless person like you have to criticize? Xie Qingyang, if you still hold any affection for me, I only hope that from now on, we meet as strangers. Attendants, see the guests out. Immediately, onlookers among the servants stepped forward, intending to help them leave. They were pushed aside by Xie Qingyang. I watched his receding figure, a reminder. By the way, if you have any doubts about the broken engagement, you might as well go home and ask your mother. His steps faltered slightly, but he said nothing more. In our youth, we slowly drifted apart in the torrent of time. Years later, we will eventually become strangers. When my parents learned of this, they were furious. They believed that Mrs. Xie was deliberately trying to cause trouble for us. That very night, they had all the shopkeepers compile the Xie family's accounts from the past few years, and the next day, they took the accountants to demand payment. I used to always think about leaving some room for maneuver, so we could meet again in the future. Now it seems, it depends on the person. This sum of money, if not enough to bankrupt the Xie family, would certainly cause them serious harm. When father returned, he was in high spirits and specifically called us back home. He said he wanted Lu Zheng to have a couple of drinks with him. Father said that at the time, Xie Qingyang was insisting on breaking off his engagement with Yuni, but their marriage contract had already been submitted to the authorities for registration. It wasn't something that could be dissolved with just a word. Moreover, Yuni was unwilling. It seemed the wedding wouldn't be happening. Not only did Xie's mother not try to dissuade him, but she also brought out a stack of portraits of young women for Xie Qingyang to choose a new fiancé from. But are the noble ladies of the capital so easy to marry? The four people at the table exchanged a knowing smile. I consider myself fortunate to have such a mother-in-law. Otherwise, marital discord would have been inevitable sooner or later. That is precisely why I resent Xie Qingyang and am angry with Xie Qingyang. Yet I do not blame Yuni for stealing my fiancé. I have always believed that people are not objects. If they can be taken away, it only means their heart was never truly there. Not long after that, there was trouble at the border. Lu Zheng needed to return early. When asked about my plans, I chose to go with him. Years later, when I returned to the capital and passed by the Xie residence, the plaque above the gate had long since been replaced with another family name, the scholar who once dazzled the capital, achieving the top honors in all 3 imperial examinations, has also vanished without a trace. Yet all of this has long ceased to have anything to do with me. After hearing the 2 stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.